Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Heavenly Parent Holy Community Oceania Hundoke with Reverend Yutaka Yamada. Today being Monday, the 5th of July or the 26th of May in the 9th year of Chongalguk. So let's offer together our bow to our Heavenly Parents and true parents, Chariot, Kyombe, Haro. And let's recite our family pledge, both in Korean and English. Thank you.
가존맨세 8. 전일국 주인, 우리 가정은 참 사랑을 중심하고 전일국 시대를 맞이하여 절대 신앙, 절대 사랑, 절대 복종으로 신인의 일제 이상으로 이루어 지산 천국과 천산 천국의 해방권과 석방권을 완성할 것을 맹세하나이다.
Family pledge number 8. Our family, the owner of Chongalguk, pledges having entered the era of Chongalguk to achieve the ideal of God and human beings united in love through absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience, and to perfect the realm of liberation and complete freedom in the kingdom of God on earth and in heaven by centering on true love. Thank you. I'd like to ask Kemme Ito if he can offer the opening prayer this morning. I hope he's there. Maybe not. That's okay. I'll offer the prayer today. Okay. Please join me. Dear Heavenly Parents, we're very grateful as always to be able to come together as a community at the beginning of the day to share your words and your heart and for us to connect so that we can really feel motivated and inspired and to share together. You know, we know your desire. Ever since the beginning of creation, you desire to embrace your family, but because of the fall of Adam and Eve, because of the emergence of Satan, the world has left your grasp, and you've suffered in agony ever since. And we know that you've labored with humanity for thousands of years, bringing us the truth in spite of ourselves, bringing us salvation in spite of ourselves, bringing us our true parents, and enabling the world to be transformed back to your original ideal, and for you to finally embrace the first original family through our true parents, to finally be able to manifest and to feel your love, to feel the embrace, to feel what you long desired at the very beginning. And we are here now as the fruit of that offering, as the fruit of that success of our true parents. And we are in the realm of Chongalguk now. All the historical debt has been paid, and we are marching towards the substantial realization of your ideal where everyone can share joy and peace and happiness. So we ask that you can be here with us, that we can really connect to the words that Reverend Yutaka is sharing today, and that we can offer our best always, and that we can work together as a community, work to build and support one another. So I ask that you can provide us with all the tools necessary so that we can succeed without fail. So I report this in our collective names and in our names, John and Shizio and Misa, the Central Blessed Family. Arju. Thank you, everyone. And let's welcome Reverend Yutaka as he shares with us this morning. Thank you.
Good morning, our brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining today morning Hundoke. This morning is also having the gathering together and offer chansong and prayer to our Heavenly Parents and true parents. So we can imagine Heavenly Parents come down to us, and through this moment, really, He will guide us and share the message and give the inspiration to each of us, all our Heavenly Parents and true parents, our spiritual world ancestor, and our brothers and sisters, really gather together to have this moment. Really, I'm appreciate and the connection with our everyone, all brothers and sisters in Oceania. So let's have a great time today. So yesterday we had second generation workshop in Solomon Island. So I hope they had a good time there. And yesterday the one second gen brothers sharing was also beautiful and really good. There are many second generation and even third generation is growing up in each place. In Oceania also, some island nation second gen is still small, but they are growing up. And Australia, New Zealand is already third generation is growing up. So time is not stopping continuously. Even we don't do anything, time is going, and we are growing, and children is growing, and next generation is growing. How we can concern and prepare, fulfill mission in this era, and also prepare and inherit for the next generation. So this is really important role. We have to connect well together. And also yesterday we had several meetings about Chombo or Heavenly Tribal Messiah, how we can fulfill to share our blessing and how we can become the owner and the victor of Chombo. This is our mother's wish and the father's wish for our blessed families and all our second generation and family. And this is not only for ourselves, even 7.8 billion people, everyone should become Chombo, Victor, blessed family, and as the children of God. So we are continuously going on. And one of another meeting is the PCLC, Pacific Christian Leadership Conference. Now we can see how society is changing. So President Hori yesterday shared really good things, important message. We can recognize, we are discussed before about the climate change. When we discuss about the climate change, in the beginning, we can discuss just recognition of climate change. Maybe climate is changing now. I'm not sure, but climate is changing little by little. We can see some kind of a symbol or signal of changing. This was the discussion before. We have to recognize about changing of climate. But how about now? Already we could recognize change a lot. So how many big changing was happened of climate? That's why we have to stop and we have to have a solution. This is now changing. So how about our changing value in the society? In the beginning, we are discussing about the recognition about changing value, changing concept, or changing culture. But now, not only just the recognition, already we could see the changing value, our family value is changing, about also the LGBT issue is coming, and many also individuals is coming. So not only recognition level, already changing of culture, changing of our ideology, or changing of our value, this moment is coming. So how we can treat them and approach them and guide them to the original ideal. That's why our PCLC, Pacific Christian Leadership Conference, is one of the way to provide the proper and original God's ideal value. This is also same absolute value. So those discussion is happening. So now soon North Korea will be open. We don't know when. Every time the providence suddenly happen. When we think about the Russia, Soviet Union, German, we didn't know at that moment. But through parents continuously invest and went to North Korea and went to Soviet Union and emphasize about the religious freedom and the meaning of God, and finally open Soviet Union and to parents educate the young people about God and about principle and about value. So in the same time, our North Korean and South Korea, surely soon this moment will come. If North Korea open, and what kind of things we can provide and we can contribute and we can give the influence. That's why our PCLC, the Christian leaders, or UPF, interreligious activity, those religious freedom can support our North Korea or unification between North and South Korea. So anyway, Trimada also sharing through autobiography. So those situations is coming together. One by one looks like small things, our Chombo activity, blessing activity, True Family Movement, UPF movement, YSP, VIP, and the Christian clergy interreligion. Yes, each one looks like small and moving individually, but all foundation is actually interconnected, cooperating under Heavenly Parents' direct guidance and also True Mother's direct initiation, and those one become the piece of our Heavenly Parents' providence, and finally make a conclusion or fruit in each place. That's why centering on our Korean Peninsula, surely North Korea will open. So we can imagine if North Korea open, how this world will be changed. If next month, for example, next month, President Kim Jong-un accepted, now I accept to unify North and South Korea. I will open the border. I will invite all people to North Korea, the businessmen, religious people, Chulmada, and to build the new country. Our Korean Peninsula become the one nation. If this day has come, what kind of influence to the society will be happen? Japan with Korean Peninsula, USA with Korean Peninsula, and also China, Russia, Europe, all situation will be changed. That's why even we are doing several projects or providence separately, but centering on our Mother and Heavenly Parents, that process surely is going on. So we always pray together and put our heart and receive the inspiration from God, and we have to go together. So please pray well and contribute and find a way. What part really can we contribute, invest, and also we can fulfill our mission. So our Fundokhay, Johnson, our Oceania, our each nation of Oceania nation, and also our each blessed families, we are living special moment. So let's create the history together. So really we are living the exciting moment. So let's have a great time. So we share also the Mother of Peace. Now, Mother also sharing this part. We are sharing this Mother's autobiography, talking about the division of Korean Peninsula. That's why Universal Peace Federation and also KAUSA or VOC really invested a lot to solve this communist and solve the unification between North and South Korea. And yesterday we share about the peace road, because many young people even could not understand or even doesn't recognize the history of Korea, the meaning of the separation between North and South Korea. That's why through Peace Road project, Trimada tried to bring all international foundation to Korean Peninsula and to make an atmosphere. So we can see and share these contents today also. So I will read our Trimada's autobiography. When the North Korean People's Army with Soviet backing invaded South Korea on the morning on June 25, 1950, Their ambition was to communize South Korea. They might have succeeded, as Korea was a small, poor country whose name was hardly known to the wider world. But the United Nations swiftly called on its member nation to defend democracy on the Korean Peninsula. And 16 countries sent troops while others sent medical support. The UN forces fought hard, risking their lives in an unfamiliar land to protect freedom and peace. So how this division of Korean Peninsula was happened? Of course, North Korea invaded South Korea, but behind of that, there was the big nation's influence. Soviet Union is supporting, and China is supporting behind, and the United States is together with South Korea. So looks like this battle is between North Korea and South Korea, but actually behind of that, there are bigger nations' influence existed. So almost North Korea invaded and also occupied all nations of South Korea. And this North Korean army almost reached until the end of Korean Peninsula, around the Busan area, end of southern part of Korea. But last moment, the United Nations decided to support South Korea. That's why those Korean War atmosphere was changed. Already we learned or we shared this part many times. At the time, as I mentioned above, my husband was confined in a death camp, sentenced to hard labor at the Hunnam nitrogen fertilizer factory. He was freed soon after the UN forces landed at the port of Incheon in September 1950. They pushed their way up into the northern part of the peninsula as far as the city of Hunnam. The prison camp guards were killing all the prisoners, but the night prior to my husband's scheduled execution, the guards learned about the approaching UN forces and fled. So that time where true father was actually inside of the Hunnam prison. So North Korea came to South Korea, and South Korea pushed back North Korea with UN troops. That's why North Korean army was afraid and tried to run away and tried to kill the all prisoner. But the one day before, which true father's schedule execution, finally those prisoner was released by UN force. That's why true father also could escape from that prison. So do you remember the number of true father's prisoner? Do you know the true father's prisoner number? 596. If we read in Korean word, this is O. 5 is O, 9 is Ku, and 6 is Yu. If we read in Korean word is Oguryuk, Oguryu. Oguryu meaning is resentment. So actually, true father's number 596 is really Oguryu. Ogurada is really resentment, resentful. So maybe there is also the God's feeling or some symbolical meaning. Originally, true father doesn't need to go this kind of a prisoner life or jail life, but because of losing the old foundation of Christianity, central figure, and fairness, that's why true father went to Hunnam prison, and to lose the old foundation, start from the bottom. So we know those providence. Heaven surely was behind the UN Security Council's decision to send a multinational force to turn back the communist invasion. The ultimate reason for the UN peacekeeping action was hidden one: to save the only begotten son and protect the only begotten daughter. In accordance with God's will, our lives were preserved. So through mother sharing that behind of those situations, God, heaven's work was there. How UN decide to go to the South Korea? That time Korean Peninsula was not so much famous, just one of the small unknown country. But that time 16 nations gathered together and decide to support. The decision to support South Korea, meaning is decide to sacrifice their life, including our Australia ancestor, Australia elders, and also the New Zealand, and also 16 nations. Their decision to support South Korea, to support this Korean War, meaning is they decide, I will sacrifice my life for Korea. I will sacrifice for the world peace. So this decision was really precious. And because of this decision, UN entered to South Korea and Korean Peninsula. And this one is to supporting and saving the life of our begotten son to father and saving our begotten daughter through mother's life. That's why Australia and New Zealand and all nations really did the historical great things to save our begotten son, begotten daughter, our true parents' life. So we really appreciate our elder, general, elder army, our Australia and New Zealand and Korean veteran. Not only thank you level, really we have to appreciate because of you. You really save our true parents' life and also Korean life. If their decision was delayed even one day, already Korean Peninsula maybe already finished their life or their history, and maybe our true father's life already finished that time. That's why each single moment, one day, one moment, really change the history. If Hunnam one day delay, and even Seoul, if one day delay, we already share about the true mother's some escape from Seoul. The Hangang Bridge was exploded. If one day delay, what's happened? Already North Korean army attacked to South Korea, Seoul, and also through mother's life, we don't know what's happened. So all things was happening, but behind of that, there was God's will and God's protection also. Why would God have protected our nation, the Korean people, in the historically difficult and troublesome crisis? The world was just recovering from World War II, and now it plugged into another torturous battle on a global scale. The fact that our national anthem includes the words, "May God protect and preserve our nation," points to the answer. It can be explained best in terms of God's providence. So why God is protecting and guiding Korean people and Korean nation. So when we listen about the Korean national anthem also mentioning about name of God. Even some of them is not believing God. Some of them are not religious people, but inside the national anthem, they are talking and mentioning about God. So they are proud. Automatically, they respect God. They respect heaven. This is already the culture of Korean people in Korea. Have you heard about national anthem of Korea? So maybe we can listen. I prepare one video about Korean national anthem. So let's watch together. So they are mentioning God in Korean. Do you know the God in Korean? 하나님. 하나님 is the God in Korean word. So please also listen that. They are mentioning 하나님. this is really beautiful, and all Korean people is singing this national anthem, and they really proud their nation, Korea. You know, their patriotism is they think their nation, they really proud as the Korean, and really strong identity they have as the Korean people. That much they proud of their races, they really respect their ancestors, and even they really respect and attend God already as the nation, as the people. So God really guiding Korean people and protect and preserve. We could see those history. To complete the providence in 1943, God sent his only begotten daughter, the first woman who could receive God's first love since the fall of Adam and Eve, to Korea. As do all people, this only begotten daughter had to grow to maturity. She needed time until she could recognize, understand, and accept her responsibility for the salvation of humankind. A child cannot simply go out and lead the providence. That is why God protected his only begotten daughter until she grew to the age when she could know Heavenly Parent's mind, feel Heavenly Parent's heart, and determine with her own will to own Heavenly Parent's mission. So our father, our true mother is mentioning, if she was younger or small child time, she could not recognize God's will and also cannot lead the providence. That's why God protected her, guided her, and God was waiting for her to grow up until the moment to recognize and lead the providence. So every person has the growing period, even through father, through mother, even God's person, or even ourselves, there is growing period. So, and that each own portion of responsibility. So by portion of responsibility, we have to understand our mission and our role and our purpose in our life, during our life, what kind of things we should do. So through mother, as the begotten daughter, she could realize her mission, and she stood as the mother of peace and also begotten daughter. God preserved the environment of religious freedom for the sake of the fulfillment of Jesus' final words in the Bible. Surely I am coming soon. Jesus and the Holy Spirit called and led the only begotten Son and only begotten daughter to complete the mission of the Messiah as the true parents of humankind. To protect this mission, heaven guided the UN forces to enter the war to defend freedom. That's why those movement, Jesus also mentioned, I'm coming soon, I will come, surely come again. So our begotten Son, true Father and true Mother and true parents, and also you and the forces. So those things, those movement is not just happen accidentally. Everything, there is also God's plan, God's timetable, providential time period. So we are living in this era. We should have that kind of a special view, how we can lead the providence, how we can lead the God's heart behind of an event, behind of happening, behind of this history. Today is July 5th, 2021, but we should have that kind of view. What really God's timetable is moving now, today, in July 5th. How we can catch, how we can lead this God's providence. So we should inherit and we should learn and understand that kind of a special viewpoint with God, with Heavenly Parents' mind, and with our true parents' mind. Then we can see totally different view, totally from different perspective, together with God's eye and God's heart. So now through our True Mother's autobiography, True Mother is sharing what's heaven's plan, what's heaven showing us, and God's viewpoint. When we have a same viewpoint, even we are looking at same things, but we could read behind of special meaning. So we have to, through Fundoke, we have to connect our heart to our heavenly parents and our true parents. So let's read also Jeonsongyeon word. This is Jeonsongyeon. The mysteries of the human body testify to God's existence to a greater extent than we can ever fathom. Human beings are the masterpiece of creation. If human beings have a subject partner, an absolute God who created them, would that God have rendered them incapable of knowing what he says, sees, or feels? So Father is talking about the human body, and human body has special values. So we are living every moment, hard working, right? Today and tomorrow, every moment we are doing and living, investing our heart, mind, and everything in order to survive today, in order to fulfill something, and in order to cooperate, fulfill God's mission. So God, Father is talking about God created our human beings as the masterpiece of creation. How many times can we recognize the speciality? Can you see your body now? How many parts is working together now? In the one moment, how many tasks we are doing? Maybe we can imagine our computer. We can open the many kind of app, many kind of program working together. So when we see our body, how many parts, how many tasks is going together at the same moment? Our eye is looking something, right? And mouth already breathing air, and nose automatically the smelling something. And how about your mind? How many things you are thinking now? How was today's fundoke? What kind of food I can cook now? Who I should meet today? So many kind of thinking is coming together, and our five senses, skin, and even inside the body, blood is working and internal organ is working. That's why when we see our body in one moment, how many tasks is going and working together. That's why actually our human body is not simple things. Really, God created as the masterpiece of creation. And God said, if God, and also God said, would that God have rendered them incapable of knowing what he says, sees, or feels? So actually, God created human beings already, the existence who can recognize, who can have a capability to know God's heart, what he say, what he see, and what he feel. Just we lose these things, but originally God created. That's why we should recognize how much our body and how God created our human beings as the masterpiece of God's creation. So today I share about Turmada's message and also Jeonsongyeon message. We could see how God is working behind of our history and even current era, how God is working. That's why Turmada sharing about the Korean War time and how God sent the UN and how God make a plan and raise them up, protect them, and lead their life as the true parents and also as the God's providence. So when we are living a special historical moment now, 2021, July 5th, there is some special God's plan. So how we can connect with God's providence, God's heart, and also God's message is really important. So today also we will start a new day, a new life. Let's find a way. Let's get the inspiration and God's message every moment, every day. We pray 7 minutes prayer. So during 7 minutes prayer time, please deeply pray. God, what is your plan for me? And what is your hope to me? What is your message to me? Through this prayer and chanson, God surely show some signal and show some realization, show us some message. So with those message, let's do and offer the happiness and victory to our heavenly parents and true parents. Thank you once again to join this morning Hundoke, and let's have a great time. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much, Reverend Yutaka, as always, really enlightening us with your understanding and sharing so much. Thank you, everyone, for coming together, as always, this morning. And I was actually struck by, I didn't realize the meaning of 596, Father's number, that Ogoryo, the resentment in Korean. Really, I started to have realizations, that God had such a resentful heart, not for himself, but for the fact that his son had to be in prison, that his son is having to undergo Satan's accusation, that from that, he just more wanted to protect Father. And also at the same time, I was thinking that Father had resentment, but not for himself, but that God could not dominate the world, that God had lost everything and Satan was dominating, and that God's plan and hope were to be fulfilled through Father. So Father was more determined that to succeed and to make sure that true parents could emerge and really bring us the change that is needed, that God desires from the very beginning. So I didn't realize that 956 sounded like the word resentment in Korean, and it sort of really made me think, wow, everything, God plans everything. So even to have that number as a memory, to continually motivate and stimulate Father, that he cannot die because he has to fulfill for our heavenly parents. So I was interesting to have that, not knowing what that meant. So thank you. I'd like to open it up to everyone. Please, who would like to go first? Yes, Douglas, go ahead.
There was a signature campaign that Americans were invited to participate in support of Korea unification about 20 years ago. And during the campaign, one of the things that really shocked me was that we were discovering the fact that there was resentment to America, and it was long, deep rooted. And this took us by surprise because we were mostly aware of the Korean War. But I walked into this little storefront, and on TV was a movie, and there were American dressed like Civil War soldiers, uniforms, and they were attacking a Korean village, because back in the 1800s, they were actually engaged on behalf of the United States to sell weapons, and a lot of the colonial powers in the world were selling weapons all around the world. And True Mother recently referred to that experience. So the Korean people didn't want to buy the American weapons, so the Americans landed and killed a lot of people and forced them to buy weapons from them, you know. So we know the beautiful thing of the UN and the fact that you know, what all that MacArthur did, but our nations, colonial nations, did so much damage too, and it just shocked us. So we started to pray for that, you know, and we started to concentrate on those points, and even America has to be very aware of its faults too in this whole episode, so that we can be tempered to be very, very careful. These are Father's words. America has to be very, very careful in helping to solve this problem between North and South Korea, because it goes back to this one in 1905. There was a war between Russia and Japan, and Teddy Roosevelt was now the president of the United States, and he had also been the man as Secretary of American Navy to win the Spanish-American War only 7 years before. Because he was so famous for that Spanish-American War, he was catapulted into the presidency of the United States. So when Japan and Russia were fighting, Teddy Roosevelt sent an ultimatum to Japan to end the war with Russia, or you will be at war with the United States of America. And because America took on the largest empires in the world, like Spanish Empire, we had the most powerful navy, so they believed it, they knew it. But in 1905, that war was immediately ended by the Japanese, just like that. And that was the warning that Roosevelt gave, but the carrot that Roosevelt gave, the carrot, which America has to be ashamed of, was that if he said to the Japanese, if you end this war, I will turn a blind eye to what you want to do with Korea. You know, that was 1905. Korea was the fastest growing Christian nation in the world. And he said, I will turn a blind eye. Immediately, Japan began the annexation of Korea as soon as it ended the war. It was all to secure American control of the captured colonial properties of the Spanish Empire, especially in the Pacific, primarily the Philippines. This was something that Teddy Roosevelt absolutely wanted to do in the goal of American exceptionalism, manifest destiny. It is really amazing that 100 years later, in 1905, the Speaker of the House of the Philippines paid back Korea and heaven by declaring Reverend Sun Myung Moon's Universal Peace Federation at the United Nations exactly 100 years later. It was almost like the Philippine people were paying back, you know, to Korea to support fundamentally the number one thing, the unification of North and South Korea. So this is something that America, from colonialism, gun selling, and the corrupt side of America did. It has to be very aware of it. And actually UPF headquarters is aware of that story and actually uses that in proper ways, you know, but I just want to share that.
Wow, thank you. Okay, we got a couple of people with their hands up. Now first Steve, and then Elise after that. Go ahead, Steve.
Good morning, everyone. I'm just always inspired by Governor Yamada's gathering of content and heart each morning. He just elucidates things beautifully, and it always is food for thought for my day. I like to say happy birthday, America. You know, my beloved country, one of my beloved countries. I was thinking this morning briefly, each Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday and Friday, I talk to Reverend Sean Bao, we talk about spiritual things, and I was meditating last night, and I couldn't quite settle into what I wanted to talk about. And then this morning I was thinking, I just had this inspiration about America. And, when you think about how God brought together the minds at that time in that small nation to create the Declaration of Independence and then ultimately the Bill of Rights, and the words of the Declaration are not just for America, they're for the entire world. Also, I was thinking about the comments by Reverend Hori last night when we were President Hori. We were talking about the PCLC, and he was mentioning about things are happening in North Korea. All of a sudden, we see Kim Il-sung, he's lost all this weight. Is he ill? Has he found a new diet? We don't know what's happening behind the scenes. We didn't know the manifest destiny of America. We think about, was it 1919 when this 16-year-old girl helped rally, the freedom movement in Korea, or Joan of Arc, also of the similar age, who led, the forces in France. We don't know how God will work or who he'll work through. When Mother was saying that there may be the unity of or definitively there will be unity in 2022 of the peninsula, I was thinking to myself, what? What? With what's happening there? The history of such abuse, the murder and mayhem, who's working behind the scenes? How is it developing? And also this morning, when we were hearing about, the energy and the importance of our unity, and behind the scenes, because of our unity, we don't see manifest a substantial external result yet. But because we're united at heart with Mother, we don't know what Mother's doing, how she's reaching out internally and spiritually with Father in the spirit world for the transformation of things. But we have to have faith, and we have to know that through 16-year-old girls, through these great minds brought together in this small nation that defeated the greatest power in history, we have to be confident, and we have to be prayerful and see the result coming, and have confidence that we are part of it, and that we can contribute even in small ways because of our sincerity, our faith, our prayers, our tears, that God's final battle in these last of the last days could bear victory, and that we can participate in its maturation. Yeah.
Mm.
So we are all parties. We're all players in this. And I just want to encourage your prayers that Mother's in charge and Father's in charge, and God is on the top of everything, and we're together holding hands. Huh? Yeah, thanks. God bless.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Okay, Elise, go ahead.
Well, again, I want to really thank you for your mother to really explain the achievement of two parents, and what is, so that we are ready to plug into that. And what my emphasis really is the power we have as individuals, especially also looking at our body, how God created our body, but also he shows us a blueprint how we as humanity can function if everybody just does whatever what we feel guided by God. That's why I was studying very much the way how over the last 40 years of healing. How can we heal? And coming to realize what the our trauma does is we are frozen. Our body is frozen. 95% of our body is water. So if we are frozen, means we can't function. But because of the love of God, and so that's why for me, as through the COVID, everything was locked down, and that was where I personally felt God working. The first time in my life, I thought, wow, is that possible? Everything was shut down. Everybody was, the streets were empty. And suddenly a purification took place. The environment started to clear up more. Suddenly people could see the sky. Anyway, so what my point is really to that I'm convinced if we affirm the word to parents' words, if we affirm there's the power of yes, and we can do that. But before that, we have to say no to when thoughts are coming, when all those things are torturing, when we are getting under pressure because of our enemy who wants to stop everything what we want to do. And so for me, when I started to realize through the COVID, that everything was really stopped, and I saw God working. I found God in myself on the first time in my life. I mean, it took me so long time, but and I started to realize, yes, we can ask God. God is 24/7 in our hearts, want to talk to us, want to guide us, but we have to connect and say no to whatever comes, to take our freedom. And that's my point. I really believe that through uniting and say affirm what we want every day, and as your mother emphasizes, really, then things can change to the better, to what we want to see, to what God wants to see, what true parents want to have, so that we can harmonize together. Anyway, that's my my feeling. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Elise. Thank you, everyone. It's that time again for us to join together in unison prayer. So I'll just change the screen, and then we can offer. Adieu, adieu, adieu. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day. And see you tomorrow.
Have a good day, John.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a nice day. Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.
Bye. Thank you.